What's going on, guys? Welcome to the first Big Al show. We ask big questions about life, business, and spirituality. Got Brandon on the podcast for the first one ever. We're here in the studio at Costello. How we doing?
Yeah, it's great, dude. I mean, thank you for... I really feel honored to be on the first one of these.
Absolutely, absolutely. We tried to do one before. This is our second take, but we had some audio issues, so we're back at it. But what you been up to? Rocking and rolling?
Mostly work, man. It's been pretty busy. We got to do around this time of year, man. Like, dude, we got all these events and everything going.
Yeah.
With the holidays. It's December, right?
Christmas and holidays and everything.
I'm like super busy this time of year, and it almost gets to the point that you don't really want to go to parties that much anymore. You go to so many.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know.
Not to say I'm grateful. I love doing all that.
Yeah, you're getting invited, you know?
Yeah,
so.
yeah. At least they got it.
That's the important thing. But, well, awesome. Brandon Kelley, he's a mortgage lender with Cross Country Mortgage here in Raleigh. You've been a lender, what, how long?
Going into my third year now, so just about 2 full years, and what a ride, man. What a time to become a lender with this past year and historically high rates and historically big increases in rates in that time. So
what how have rates changed since you've been in the business? Like when you started, where were they today?
Yeah. Well, I got in the industry and they were at the lowest of all time, for those of you that don't know. So I got in 2021, and that was, I mean, literally right in the rut of like 2.5%. So, you know, it's since then really just climbed up. And when I started, honestly, it was like even easier to get loans than it is now. Being fresh into the industry, getting loans was like, you know, just a lot easier, having only been in for a short time. Now there's less people, but, you know, you've got to be able to... It's good. I'm thankful in a lot of ways for what happened, because I don't really think that there's going to be too many mortgage markets like there are now throughout the rest of my career where I'm going to have to, you know, be able to explain difficult, complicated situations, huge rises in rate. It's made it tougher, and but at the same time, man, if I can do this, other markets, I'm sure, are going to seem a lot easier.
It's like what they're telling us in the real estate world. You know, if you can survive the down markets, hopefully a lot of realtors get out. You know, not hopefully, I mean, but I guess hopefully too. I mean, let's be honest, I would hate if they got out. But nah, I mean, if you survive the storm, you're going to obviously be better at the beach. Yeah. So, nah, that's awesome. Where are you from?
So I grew up in Guilford, Connecticut.
Connecticut?
Yeah, man, Northeast, right in between Boston and New York. Grew up really more of a New York guy, New York fan, and going into Manhattan, I come down here at like 18 and been here ever since.
Nice, nice. And you went to what, NC State?
Went to NC State, yeah.
And what did you major in there, mortgage lending?
It would have been better if I had. I got an engineering degree. That's kind of a long story in a way, because in high school, man, I didn't have good grades at all. So I had to apply 3 times again to NC State. On the last one, I pulled out all the stops, got referrals. So I got turned down twice before I even get into the school.
Wow.
Barely get in. I go to the first year of college. After the first year, I talked to my dad. My dad's basically like, hey, you know, why don't, if you're going to do this, you should, because after first year of college, you have to determine what degree you're going to do.
Right.
He's like, you should go into engineering. If you're going to get a degree, you might as well get, like, reach for the stars, so to speak. So, so I did, and, you know, I didn't really think I could at the time, but, you know, he really encouraged me, and so, I finished last in my class in engineering.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But I finished.
That's right, you got it done. I would have hated the math. I remember having a buddy that was an engineering major, and I'm so off and on about this, but I recently got all the books to get my GC license. And I'll be honest, I started it and I was like, there's a lot of math, and we're talking about, you know, trenches and trench depths, and I was like, that's just not my skill set.
What was your major?
Communications. So, hey, this is it, right here.
You're using it, right?
I got, you know, my parents paid 60 grand for me to basically make a bunch of friends. But, no, yeah, I was a communications major, minored in business. I wanted to be the next day with Letterman. It's probably why we got the podcast rocking. That was my childhood dream. After, you know, hanging out with my dad a lot of late nights and watching Letterman. And, yeah, I guess reality hits a little bit. Love real estate. It gives me an opportunity to do stuff like this.
Well, you know what, man, though? You know what a genuine compliment, man. What I admire about you is that you always talk about your goals, or at least have been aware of your goals and your dreams. You know, it's not something that I don't know, I just don't vocalize, nor do I. Yeah, I guess I don't vocalize them enough, but I mean, it's good, and I think it honestly is a attractive quality to have.
Well, I think I am pretty transparent, authentic guy, but with transparency, it can be great. Also, sometimes I tell too much. So, my girlfriend would tell you Alex runs his mouth too much about some stuff he probably shouldn't tell me.
Same.
It's good to be transparent, but sometimes not. Well, how about this? Back me up to your childhood. What was that like? Your parents still together? What did you have brothers and sisters?
No,
what did that look like?
I grew up. I got a brother, so it's just me and my brother, mom and dad. My dad was a pastor growing up, so he essentially like a non-denominational, and he continued to do that after I went to college. It was 6 years after I graduated before he finally retired from that. He had to work another job. So, my dad was, again, working 2 jobs. He had a full-time job, pastor. I mean, he worked a lot. And and so, that was just something for me, like with engineering. It was like there was always the model in my life of hard work. You know, it was like my dad was always going to do what he needed to do to get us through college. My mom worked also. And, but, and she spent more time with us and, was able to really kind of play the role of raising us while he worked. And so, 2-parent household, still married to this day. They actually wind up going down. They live in Southport now. I'm sure my mom's, hey mom, watching.
Hey mom.
She watches everything I do, but
my mom does the same. She'll be the first comment to say great job, and I think it's because I told her, I was like, Mom, I'm getting paid on Facebook now, so like the more comments the better. So she's like, you still getting paid on there? I try to comment every time, and I'm like, you don't have to do it every time. I do love the support.
I'm not gonna tell my mom, and I'm sure she's gonna talk to me about this, but I think she thinks that it's kind of like getting famous when I just put videos out for the friends and close circle there. So.
What was it like having a dad that was a pastor?
There was definitely more of a expectation for me, and kind of because at the head of a congregation, there's a lot of eyes on you and your family. So I think I understood that anything that I did too, I had to be conscientious of that. But other than that, I mean, my dad was. My dad was not. We didn't always have like a friend kind of role, so to speak. My dad was always, he was
the leader, the dad.
Yeah. I always knew there was never a situation where I couldn't say I didn't know any better. So that's for sure.
That's true.
But that was definitely more of the role that he played. A lot of people were super friendly with their dads. We didn't have didn't have a relationship very much like that. The older I've gotten, the more of a relationship we have in that way. But I don't, I don't have any, I don't wish it any way. I understood the position that he was in, and he played the role of dad. But as far as him being the leader of the church, there was definitely a little more pressure just to be.
And that's a lot. I mean, I literally just had lunch with a guy that used to be a pastor, and he just talked about how so political, you're always, you're basically always in the limelight or whatever, and he's like, there's a lot of people, honestly, go to church and practice being Christian, and, sometimes, you might say they go to church all the time, but they really don't practice what they preach, so I think there's a lot of that in the church, too, which is in my opinion, caused our generation to give some distance to the church, if you will.
I shouldn't say it as if, it's not like there was this big, heavy burden and there wasn't, people were generally understanding. I also saw him more in a leadership role, leading that community, and my dad was really more of like, again, he'd always be working. I can remember times where like everybody else, my dad always had more of the mentality of, he wouldn't ask somebody to do something he wouldn't do himself, and I can remember situations where everybody left and it was just my dad and I having to set up or take down after events, so just the value of hard work, I think is what really was instilled in me, among other things.
I was similar. My parents were divorced, but my mom's single for 18 years. I always said, hey, I get my hard work and ambition from her, because she's I mean, I used to go home and me and my brother wouldn't do what she said we were supposed to do. Like, we wouldn't do the dishes. And she'd come in and, not that my mom's very even tempered, but she'd come home and be like, gosh, what the heck's going on? You know, I'm like, hey, let's go to Chili's. And we always wonder why we're always going to Chili's, but I was like, I couldn't imagine being a single mom, doing what we do every day.
Yeah.
9 to 5, working hard, then going home, being like, hey, I got these 2 kids I got to take care of.
I can imagine, man.
My dad was similar too. I mean, he was traveling a lot for work growing up, so definitely, I say really in the last 5 years, probably since college, like we've gotten a lot closer. And I think when you become an adult, like you can kind of be a little bit more real with your parents. And I joke with some people, I'm like, yeah, sometimes I got to tell my parents what to do now, you know, because I might be wiser on certain things than them. But awesome. So you went to NC State. What did your career look like leading into lending?
Yeah, so I come out of college, and again, I finish going in college. In my last semester, I ultimately finished last in my class as an engineer, and it wasn't really for me. But at the same time, it was very tough. I mean, I had a heavy workload, and I had a lot of classes in my last semester. I was not really, maybe you could say, smart enough to have like the ability to. It took me a long time. It took me much longer to do the assignments it took other people to do because I didn't have, quite the engineer's brain that others had. And I think I still obviously had enough of that to get by. But last semester I'm super busy. I am not able to really work. So I graduate and I realize on Monday that I need a part-time job. So while I look for a full-time job, I'm thinking I get a part-time job. Long story short, I actually see a company on the side of the road because my thought was, if I'm going to do a part-time job, I might as well do a sales job. Yeah. So I see this company and I'm like, they look like they know how to sell. It's a construction company, disaster restoration. I call the number on the truck. Long story short, I basically work for them part-time and then develop into a project manager in a short period of time. They moved me into a full-time role. I'm doing project management. And that was a really good foundation. Project management was a really good foundational role for like business in general. Yeah. Because it's just so much, all of the qualities that you need to do a good job as a project manager. You need, in all aspects of being able to multitask, communicate well, execute effectively, all those things you have to do as a project manager. So I do that, but I realized more that people and sales are kind of a strength of mine, and so I started to develop into doing more customer facing, like relationship roles. Right. I do all the relationships for disaster restoration that send us business. I start to get into that, and as I'm doing that, essentially I start networking with some people, and I got tired of construction, did it for 7 years. Yeah. My family actually plugged for Kelley Construction. I was part of starting a construction company with my brother. Kelley Construction. Give them a call. If you need construction services in the Wilmington area, definitely give us a call. But that's really grown into something. But I got tired of construction, and so I wanted to do something more that was on my shoulders. Yeah. When you're doing construction projects and you're dealing with clients, like you're relying on like 30 people to do a job. Like you have to get people doing all the different tasks of what needs to be done, the different contractors in the home. And so I wanted to do something that was more on my back, that I had more control over. And so and the name of the game for us in mortgages is relationships with realtors, builders. That's how we get our business. And so now I'm going into the third year doing this, and what was a really tough market, but wouldn't change a thing, man. It's been really good. I know. What's something that most people don't know about you? That's not a secret, but what's your fun fact? Does Brandon have a fun fact? Something that most people don't know. Okay, I used to be in a band. Wow. Yeah. What did you play? At the time, I played bass, because I was the youngest in the band. They were kind of like, you gotta play bass. It's like, fine. So I played bass. I can't play guitar. I played bass, played guitar decently. Are you guys like a screamo band, or what? Probably more of a punk. Punk, yeah. Punk and rock, yeah. Punk rock. Rock on. I can play drums too, really well. I've always wanted to learn drums. Yeah. Drums are the one. I'd love to have a drum kit right now. I don't. Yeah. But actually, speaking of my 10-year vision, 15, like if I could have, I won't tell you the whole thing, but I'd love to one day have just a room in my house where it's soundproof and I have a drum set in there, so anytime I'm stressed, I can just
go AWOL.
Dude, I would probably have one right now, but I've lived in apartments, or now I live in a condo, so I can't really be like, slamming on the neighbor.
My neighbors wouldn't love it either. So.
Yeah, so I would love to have that. Is that my phone that keeps going, or is that you?
I think it's me.
Okay,
Maybe it's better.
Making sure, dude.
We're staying busy.
We're podcast. We're
trying. We're trying.
Hey, just don't mind the huge amount of business you have.
That's right.
Which is great.
If you guys have any business for us, let us know. Too many, a lot of BD plugs in this.
Plugs.
All right. Now we're gonna ask you a couple big questions. Number one, what's the best advice you ever gotten from whom?
Most influential people in my life have led by example, and whether it's from my dad, other mentors that I've had in my life, and the two things that stand out are one is just hard work. Kind of trumps everything, and it's not even like the older I've gotten, the more that I've understood that. Like, I knew that then. I learned that in college just because, I wasn't as smart as other engineers. There were kids I sat down in class with, and they'd rifle off. She'd be like, "How do you do this big, long, complicated thing?" And they would just rifle off the answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, "How did you even?" And I'm like, meanwhile they're doing a crossword puzzle, and I'm sitting here trying to grasp what's even going on.
Right.
And so hard work, is how I made it through that, and I saw examples of that, in my life multiple times, and then the second thing that I kind of learned was that's been a big thing is just not focusing on and moving on from failure, just not letting, if something doesn't work out, if it's not right, just don't don't waste your mental energy just dreading, going over why it didn't happen, why it didn't work, being upset, and just kind of, feeling so bad about the fact that it didn't. You got to move on to the next thing, and you just got to keep pushing forward, regardless of what happens. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. One of my favorite quotes is "Hard work works," which I think is true. You work hard, it works. But that's right. Awesome advice, and all right. Second big question. Maybe we'll have that. This will be the last question for the podcast. I don't know if this camera's gonna die, but say I'm at Brandon Kelley's funeral and I'm giving the eulogy. What do you hope that person says about Brandon Kelley?
I would think just perseverance, I guess, for all kinds of ways, a number of different reasons. A lot of things in my life haven't gone the way that I thought they would. I mean, there's what you expect for life, and then there's what happens, and there's things that come up unexpectedly, and there are things that really kind of take you down. And so and sometimes things go in your way and in your favor, and that's great when that happens, but there's times and periods where a lot of things don't. And so the only thing that I hope is that, whatever happens, hopefully things in the end, it's just that the message, I guess, I suppose, is about perseverance, and that, never letting the circumstances of life, tear you down and alter how you are and what you do, and that, just driving and pushing through, life to, get into a better time and a better place, so to speak.
Love that. And lastly, where can people find you if you want to find Brandon Kelley?
Besides
here at the Costello office, he's here a lot.
We're on the 5th floor above Perry Steakhouse where our office is, but no, you can call me anytime, guys. 919-623-2115. Easiest way to reach me. Call me, text me. You can also email me at brandon.kelley@ccm.com. I'm online at Brandon Kelley on Facebook, where I do most of my business. So, man, thank you.
Heck yeah. Thanks for joining, brother. We'll make sure to do it again.
Regularly.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Big Al Show. Stay tuned for more episodes. Give us a follow on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Probably my personal account. But give us a follow. See what's going on. We're going to have more great guests just like Brandon. And we really do appreciate your time. Have a great day.